Thank you all for joining us. So I'll just briefly introduce the speakers today, and then we go on with the presentation. And like Darwin said in the email at the end, after the presentation, we have a few items to announce and discuss. So we have Imma and Kristin, Imma Subirats and Kolshus. Imma is a Senior Information Management Officer at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, a specialized agency that leads international effort to defeat hunger. So she manages the AGROVOC, AGRIS and AGRA programs with the objective to enhance accessibility and visibility to knowledge, information, and data produced by FAO. Okay, and Kristin is an informative management specialist at FAO, and her work focuses on information management and access to the scientific information. So, and she's a curator of AGROVOC. Okay, so with that, I will get this to you, Imma and Kristin.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Kristin is going to share the screen, and I would say on behalf of both of us and also on behalf of the AGROVOC team, thank you for inviting us to share the status of AGROVOC in 2021. It's a pleasure. We don't know much about your network, so it could be interesting at a certain point in time if we can also explore synergies in a later stage during the presentation, or otherwise we are always happy to revisit this conversation again in the near future. It was said we work at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. The acronym is FAO. This organization is placed in Rome, Italy. Therefore, from our side, good morning, but from our side is good evening. We are an agency that is part of all the specialized agencies in the UN, and our role essentially is dedicated to different aspects of food in agriculture, and particularly during this pandemic, we are talking a lot about food safety, food security, nutrition, etc., etc. Anywho, let's talk about AGROVOC. AGROVOC is a controlled vocabulary, concretely is a thesaurus that covers all the areas of interest of FAO. It has been out there since 1980s and is one of the most popular, I would say, thesaurus in food and agriculture in the world, particularly due to the fact that many of our Global South FAO country member countries are applying to the use of AGROVOC in their information systems. Next. How does it work? Just let's try to look at the architecture of AGROVOC at the beginning of the presentation in order to avoid possible problems or misunderstandings in the later stage. AGROVOC, as I said, is a thesaurus and is based on a concept model. This means that we have different concepts available, and essentially we could say that every concept is represented by a URI. And these concepts can be displayed, let's say, or identified by terms that could be in different languages. At the moment, we are up to 40 languages available in AGROVOC. These concepts can also have relationships between them, particularly broader and narrower relationships that are the most, well, are the common relationships used in thesaurus, in thesauri. In this graphic, you can see more or less that we are talking about milk products, which is the first concept. The translation in English is milk products. This is a broader term, product concept for cheese, which is the English preferred label. and is also related to specialized cheese, either cow cheese, sheep cheese, etc., that are narrower than cheese itself. At the moment, what we have is about 38,100 concepts available. We have, though, a big amount of terms available as well in AGROVOC. We go up to 800, more than 800,000 terms available. And as I said, the representation at the moment of AGROVOC is in 40 languages, which means that these 40 languages at least have 150 terms translated. And so we have a little bit more than 40, simply that we published only languages when we have a relevant number of terms translated. Next. So this would be, I hope it's not too small for you. Would be a nice representation about this multilinguality aspect that enriches so much AGROVOC. In this case, we could say that we have a concept represented by this photo. The English term would be rice. And you can see that this concept has been translated to a certain number of languages. This concept has different relationships. Narrower, dedicated rice types like basmati or brown rice, and broader would be cereals. This is the basis of AGROVOC. So it's not an ontology. It's not complicated architecture. It's simpler. The richness of AGROVOC, particularly for an organization like FAO that wants to make sure the knowledge is being shared by our FAO member countries, is to have this multilingual aspect, which is the basic element of AGROVOC. Next. How people are using AGROVOC? Well, actually, it's essentially used for indexing electronic information resources. This can go from tagging content in websites, particularly integrating AGROVOC, or reducing sometimes AGROVOC into a taxonomy, rather than maintaining the complexity, even though, as I said, it's not that complex, it's simple, but simplifying, let's say, the thesaurus itself into a taxonomy. It's also used for facilitating search engine discovery. It's used also for referencing translations, linking data sets. Very important to enhance access to open data and to standardize agricultural information data and services. Very popular in libraries. It's very popular as well, as I said, on websites, etc. But essentially, the objective when an organization, an institution decides to use AGROVOC is because they want to simplify the retrieval process. They want to make sure that to find the information in their information systems is as simple as possible and as easy as possible for the researchers and for a broad community. They want to be fundable. They want to be available on the web as well. Next. And this is the reason why one of the important components of AGROVOC is that is also helping data to become fair, particularly for the third principle, which is interoperability. So why? Because we make sure that there is an ambiguous terminology to track this data. We also provide URIs in a way that they can be referenced on the web. There is also the possibility to share and reuse content using AGROVOC, because if many information systems are using AGROVOC for tagging, it means that it's easier as well to compile this information in a new service provider, for instance. And yeah, it's an international standard from FAO's perspective, and it goes into the direction of being a terminology describing, as I said before, the main areas of interest of FAO. Next, thank you. AGROVOC, one of the important components of AGROVOC is that it's not isolated. So if an institution decides to use AGROVOC, it's applying or would be automatically applying to link the data and open data principles. Why? Well, because AGROVOC is linked data. We are interlinking with other thesauri, with other vocabularies, and making sure that there is an alignment between them, among different vocabularies and AGROVOC. This is integrated in AGROVOC. Therefore, if a person decides to use the concept cow in AGROVOC, and this cow has been aligned to NALT, this anything that is being let's say tagged with this concept in the information system of this institution will be discoverable for another information system that is using also NALT, for instance. I'm simply simplifying a little bit. It's linked data, but as I said, it's also linked open data itself, AGROVOC, because we are freely used and distributed by anyone. However, because of some political reasons in FAO, we are not CCO. We are CC BY. But at the end of the day, for us, it's almost the same, because you don't have to refer to every concept or term that is being used as CC BY. It's the AGROVOC dataset that is licensed as CC BY. Thank you, Kristin. These are some examples of vocabularies that we are aligned to. Not sure how many of them you might know, but I'm pretty sure that the National Agricultural Library thesaurus and NALT might be quite renowned. CABI thesaurus, AGROVOC, which is very much European, DVpedia, etc., etc. These are the vocabularies that currently are being aligned to AGROVOC. Kristin? And this is more or less how we do it. I mean, we are going to automatize a little bit more the process, but at the end of the day, there is a lot of human action behind the alignment, because we need to make sure that the concepts that we are aligning are really the same concept and not a similar one. This is an example of a work that Kristin and another colleague in our team, Andrea Turbati, are doing in the context of aligning AGROVOC and WorldFish. You can see this is an Excel file. There is a work where you define you look at the keywords used for describing a data set, etc., etc. You find the AGROVOC label, and from here on, we will be in a position to be able to help them to align their information system to AGROVOC, and if they would have URIs for their terms, we would also integrate this into AGROVOC. Thank you, Kristin. This is an example of what it would happen afterwards, is that you can see that, for instance, there is on the left a publication from the FAO document repository that is using a certain number of AGROVOC terms, and on the right you see CG Space, which is one of the information services used to disseminate the data, the publications in CGIR, that is also using AGROVOC. Therefore, there is a kind of support to make sure that these two publications at certain point in time are also linked. And therefore, we could say that even the document repository of FAO would be linked data, and CG Space would be also linked data, because they are using these semantics behind. Thank you. As I said, we are, for us, it's crucial to have these translations. As I said, is probably, since we are not covering as much as we would like, because we are really picky, and we are trying to make sure that behind the work that we do, there is also lots of quality, which is the great job that actually Kristin is doing, curating AGROVOC. Languages are crucial. And you can see that we have different types of coverage. We have many from Asia, also some from Africa, many from Europe, and so on. Thank you. We don't do this alone. We would not be possible to have such a tiny team that we have in FAO in Rome do all this work. So we have built what we call the AGROVOC Editorial Community, that is an amazing collaboration from all these organizations that you have in this slide. They are extremely committed. In some cases, there is institutional commitment that is also in writing, so it's a political commitment. In some cases, is more, let's say, scientific commitment. There is an interest in making sure that AGROVOC is translated to the language, the national language that they are representing. It's an amazing work. As I said, without them, probably AGROVOC would not be at the level that it is. It's a lot of work in knowledge sharing, knowledge management, and there is a lot of work all together and making sure that AGROVOC can advance every year. Yeah. And from here on, Kristin will take over this presentation. Just to mention that, not to forget, this AGROVOC editorial community is a volunteer. FAO is not providing any kind of contribution beyond to the support to these organizations with our work. We are meeting once a year. We have our annual meeting. This is one of the photos before the COVID that we took in Germany. It would be of interest to your network to participate in one of our meetings to learn a little bit more what we do, or perhaps look for synergies. We would be very happy to invite you. Kristin, it's all yours. Thank you so much.
So I'll talk a little bit about how we manage the AGROVOC editorial work and the curation. As Imma said, these are all volunteers. They are people who are librarians, information specialists, researchers, technical experts, and everyone contributes in different ways. And it's a really interesting synergy. And we do this through, we have an online platform for the content curation itself. We have monthly releases of new content. We don't always agree on content and language, so we have discussions. But just to say, there's also ways to, if you're ever using AGROVOC and you're missing a concept of some kind, you can also email us. I'll have the email at the end of the presentation. So we're very happy to hear from others. But we really rely, as Imma said, on the expert network to make sure this moves ahead. And yes, it's just an online system. People, I can see people are putting in Georgian names in Latin and Arabic for some Hordeum species. We have a goat coming in, but basically the editors put in their suggestions for new concepts, definitions, new terms in different languages. That gets validated by the FAO AGROVOC team. We also try and make sure we have definitions, so it's very clear what we're talking about, that they follow editorial standards, and that we have alignments. We can find the same concept in the Nile thesaurus or Bank thesaurus or something else. We add that, and we add the terms in new languages where available. And then we'll have that in the next release. And we just had one 2 weeks ago, and the next one will be on the 2nd of February. Everything is on the website. So here are just some examples of the concepts we added last year. And I can see that they come in sort of waves. This was we had a long discussion with the CGIR, adding experimental descriptions. We have a lot of fisheries concepts coming in. There's a lot of soil science issues coming in. We also look at social science and other issues that are of interest to people. So it's really based on what is the need, what are emerging topics, what are people researching on, publishing about, what do they need to describe the work they're doing. That's why we really need to hear from people working with us to make sure we reflect what's happening and that we include them as best possible. So I think this year we'll be looking more again at agricultural science, at agricultural machinery and engineering, more on soil science, I think, and we'll see what else comes up. So this is just an example. The topic, of course, COVID-19. This was came up early last year, and of course, AGROVOC is very much focused on agriculture, fisheries, forestry, social sciences, food safety, issues like that. So we don't really cover public health. But of course, COVID-19 impacted food safety, markets, access, food systems. And people said there's a need for it. So we said, fine, we will put it in. And we talked to the editors to make sure we got it in as many languages as possible. This is also an important aspect to making sure that you have trusted sources for it. What is the name of the disease? What is the scientific name of it? Where do we have officially trusted translations and agreed terminology for it? Because it changes. What it was in January, February was not the same as it was in April and then in August. So it's also about monitoring it and making sure you go to trusted sources and you use those. We have a clear and unambiguous understanding of this. And the editors also came up with more suggestions for concepts and things that we should include. And we said no to some, like mortgage holidays. We said it's not really AGROVOC scope, but then other ones came in. So a lot about market access restrictions, quarantine measures and such. So it's, again, you can see here we made sure we also included definitions of it, at least in English and in more language where possible, so people understand it, regardless what language they're coming from. So we talked a little bit about the fact we work with different technical audiences, and AGROVOC is huge. It's 38,000 concepts, and it's massive, and we cannot maintain it, all of the topics up to date in all areas. This is where a couple of years ago we started working with technical sub-vocabularies, which is a really interesting way. So you can have AGROVOC itself, but within it we have technically focused sub-vocabularies. So the ones you see here on land governance, aquatic sciences and fisheries, and legal and policy issues. And this way they can have a very focused, controlled vocabulary within their own topic. And it doesn't have to follow the AGROVOC hierarchy. They can have their own hierarchy, their own infrastructure, but we share the infrastructure, we share the maintenance, and they also benefit from the shared translations and input from the editorial community. So this has really helped us develop expertise and share the curation responsibility to make sure we have very focused but correct terminology in the specific areas. So yes, it's important. All the concepts have to belong to AGROVOC, but within that, it's possible to take a subset, rearrange it, and use it based on the need of the technical community. And yes, for those who are technical, they will all have URIs that can be resolved online. So, but we have a lot of curation to do to explain that. For example, land governance is very, very political. It's also about talking to the editors to make sure they understand that you can't just use. It's not just about translating to what you think it should be. It's about, it has to be politically correct for the context it will be used in. So once it's in the scheme and shared, it belongs to multiple schemes, and they cannot just edit it without impacting all the other schemes. So this is can be touchy, but it's proving really useful, and we're bringing in a lot of new expertise and content that we would not have had before. And we're interested in working with more specialized communities. If any of you have collections or vocabularies you're working with, come and talk to us. We're very happy to talk to you. And here is an example of one, public health, easy to understand. You can see here it's sitting in the fisheries scheme, in the legal scheme, and in AGROVOC itself. But each of these have different hierarchies, and that's quite important because hierarchies are quite touchy for those of you who have thesauri or control vocabularies. Everyone has their own way to organize things. But this way we can accommodate that, but still share infrastructure and translations and definitions. Statistics, they're used a lot. We're always surprised when we run the numbers and see how it goes. The number of concepts has been going up and up. We passed 800,000 now in January. And the use of statistics is also quite impressive. There's over 31 million last year. People using the single resources, that's accessing one of the concepts. But there's also people accessing the multiple resources, which is downloading the entire dataset or running queries to access it. It's all fully available online if you're interested. So how do I find it? There are links at the end, don't worry. So the editors use Vocbench. They use that for editing, and that's the back end of it. For human users, there's a SKOS interface to search. You can search in different languages and explore it. For those of you who use Sparkle queries, we also have Sparkle endpoint, where you can download data as you wish. We have web services, but those are a little bit out of date, so we really encourage people to move more to use the APIs or the Sparkle endpoint. To learn more, we have a brand new website. As of late last year, it's fao.org/agrovoc. And we have a whole slew of exciting new publications. The first one is the AGROVOC brochure, which is available in, I think, 25 or 26 different languages now. Very pleased about that. We have the brand new editorial guidelines, and there's more information to explore there as well. And I think the last one is to say that this is the team. We're a very small team, and we're happy to talk to people, to network, and to listen to what might be of use for you. That's the end of the presentation, so I'll hand back to Imma, and then we can take any questions there might be.
Thank you, Kristin.
Thank you so much thank you both of you for very interesting talk. And does anybody have any questions? Just feel free.
I have a question. Hi, let's see if I can. Oh, there I am. Okay, hi. Yeah, I was actually curious about whether or not you had incorporated any new vocabulary for the whole plant-based meat segment. You know, it's very, I don't know as far as Europe, but here in the US, things like Impossible Foods and Beyond Burger and stuff like that. There's this whole trend towards plant-based meat products. I was just wondering whether or not that vocabulary had been incorporated.
It's something I'm thinking about for this year. This is another example where things are quite political. You look at the EU definitions for things like oat milk and soy milk. Can you actually call it milk if it's plant-based? That's something I would like to also talk to our AGROVOC colleagues, but also incorporate more of that. We've added things like, vegans and veganisms. I'm thinking about the flexitarians to reflect the fact that people are changing their diets, and things like the plant-based, then it's not. It's they call those, because we have things like imitation foods, but that's not the same as it gets very political. So I think we would like to talk to someone who works on this and have a good set of definitions to make it very clear what we're talking about. I think it's definitely something we could add for this year, something that is still strongly emerging and very relevant. That's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Thanks for your talk. I was also impressed with this, and especially with the community-based curation aspect of it. We all know how hard it is to keep such a large community going and engaged over time. So I was curious to hear a little bit more about that. I'm assuming that the members of your community are all active users and producers of AGROVOC and/or related vocabularies or ontologies. So I was wondering if that was the case, and also how long this whole collaboration has been going on, and if you have any secret sauce to keeping the engagement going for the community.
Right. Here, I think that both of us could contribute because we have different roles in the community at the moment. But I think that one of probably the key elements why the community that we have is working pretty well is because we are not pushing. We allow every institution to have their own rhythm. And we are also providing lots of support in making sure that they have all the tools and knowledge to do the work that they want to do. So there is a lot of investment from our side in doing CapDev, capacity development, in let's say, non-tangible ways. So Kristin is exchanging quite a lot of materials with them. So not sure what kind of advice I could say, but I think that one that perhaps is working pretty well for us is communication. So we are communicating with them in a very, very, very often. Actually, they are part of the team, even though it's a very large community. Just to illustrate that, as I mentioned before, we have an annual meeting where we discuss the achievements and we discuss as well what are going to be the priorities for the next year. But we are also having now for a couple of years a midterm, let's say, meeting that we are planning to organize at the end of this month. So we want to discuss with them whether, according to their needs and their requirements, the things are going well, etc., etc. So I would say that there is a lot of communication at that level. I don't know, Kristin, whether you would like to add something else.
No, absolutely. A couple of years ago, people said they really needed more materials to be able to convince their managers why they should spend time on something that kind of is invisible and huge and a global public good. And Imma really put a lot of work into getting not just our brochure, but getting it translated by the editors voluntarily in so many languages. So that was a huge effort just before Christmas. And as Imma says, we don't push anyone. Most of them the national editors will start by only working in their language, only adding translations. And eventually they might come and say, oh, could we add something like plant-based burgers, or I really need microplastics or nanoplastics. So it's really, really different. Some of them are scientists in technical areas, and they want to use it in application or for tagging the research. So it's really to emphasize that it's about opening their research and making it accessible and visible, and having it translated and having the right keywords helps that. So especially for small languages, it's really powerful. So we really try to empower them and to listen.
Right. I would simply add something because you asked about timing, no? When we started, Monica. FAO is responsible, or was responsible, of the 6 official languages of FAO. So, which is the English, French, Arabic, Spanish, Chinese, and Russian. So the rest of the languages were suggested by other organizations. There was no clear AGROVOC editorial community as it is now before 2017. So it's pretty new, and it has a lot to do with the perspective that we put in how to manage AGROVOC. I think that Kristin said the key point of the whole initiative, I would say, is that AGROVOC is huge, and we risk not to provide the right content on time. So we risk to have obsolete content on AGROVOC. Either we spend half of our time in building this community and supporting this community so that we are many working on creating the content of AGROVOC, or this huge vocabulary might not be useful at a certain point in time. So for us, it's so important that I would say that we spend 50% in the AGROVOC editorial. It's paying off, though. Huh? It does. So.
Thanks. That's really good to know.
I have one question. So when you were showing the international partners, I didn't see any. I didn't see USA, so I was kind of wondering if that's because we don't need English translators, or.
Actually, we have a partner. I mean, what we had in the slides were our most, no, how can I say? These are the language partners and the content partners. Said that, we are working a lot with NAL, the National Agricultural Library. Actually, we try as much as we can to meet sometimes over the year. We try to align, if possible, our vocabularies. We try to exchange knowledge about how we work. But FAO is responsible of the English version of AGROVOC, which is essentially the work that Kristin is doing. Therefore, it's not so crucial for us to have a partner to curate the vocabulary, but it's more a kind of, with NAL, it's more a kind of quid pro quo, so more equal, and we have an excellent, actually, relationship with the current team of, also with the former team, but with the current team, we also have a very good working relationship.
Okay. So, does anyone else have questions? Okay. In that case, I guess we all want to thank the speakers again, and we could conclude the presentation part of today's meeting.
As I said at the beginning, thank you so much for inviting us. It was really a pleasure. And I hope that this is only the beginning of a possible continuation of dialogue about what you are doing in your network and how we could also contribute, and perhaps we can simply share as well some more things, I would say.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we would definitely want to collaborate, I think, in the future.
Yes, thanks. We'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you and bye.